The Hawaii pipeline continues for OU softball. Another Go Boomer tweet was released today. It's the number one player in Hawaii for 2026, Ori Malo. Welcome to the 2026 class. 5'4" power hitter, another Hawaiian slugger, joins the recruiting class in 2026 for Oklahoma. The number 18 infielder in the 26 class, according to Softball America, the number one player in Hawaii, and the number 40 player overall, Ori Malo, officially, well, not officially, but she sends out the commitment tweet today with all the cool photos from her visits. God is always good, and his steadfast love endures. I am extremely honored and humbled to announce I will be verbally committing to the Oklahoma Sooners. There's my friend Sooner Shy up there saying it correctly. You know how OU likes Hawaiian sluggers, and that's what they got. That's what you got for the 2026 class, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about Ori Malo. Again, the Hawaiian pipeline continues, and look, when you have the most famous softball player from the islands, ever, I think that it's going to help you out ultimately in recruiting, and it really seems like that Ori and her family and the Alo family are pretty close. Like, look at this. How cool is this? This is from recent. There's Jossie, and there's Ori right there, and Jossie's telling us up and coming. How awesome is that? There is a real connection between those two families, which I think is amazing. There's more photos from her on her visit. And then apparently, this is going all the way back to June of this past year. She's got a connection with both Jocelyn Alo and Kalani Ricketts, and did some cage work, all of that. So it's not that surprising that the number one player in Hawaii, who's really good, a top 40 player nationally, according to Softball America. I mean, look, especially when you're talking about softball recruiting rankings 2 years out, essentially, it's not an exact science. I mean, they and everyone else do the best that they can. But she is a top 40 player, rated as a 4-star if you're into that type of stuff. So she's a 4-star according to On3, Softball America. And the number 18 infielder, number one player in Hawaii, the number 40 player overall. But a lot to like here because I just think you have a legit slugger. And if you go and watch any of her just kind of highlight reels, the stance is oddly similar, at least to me. The stance is oddly similar to that of Jocelyn Alo. And you think back to what kind of stance and what kind of approach that Jossie had at the plate, it was very much she wanted to use her lower half like a legitimate power hitter and really generate torque and bat speed and use the back half to really generate a lot of power. And that's just kind of her swing. Ori's swing looks very similar to that of Jocelyn Alo. Clearly, I'm not saying that she's going to be the next home run queen or anything like that, but there just seems to be a lot of similarities in terms of what they look like at the plate, which if you do anything remotely similar to that of Jocelyn Alo, I think that you got to be happy about that. And I think it's fair just to say, hey, maybe the swing and maybe the approach at the plate looks similar to Jocelyn Alo, but we all know that she's going to have to do some special things to be compared to as the player of Jocelyn Alo. But the Mailo family and the Alo family seems like they have a really cool connection. I think she calls him Uncle Levi Alo, which is great. So if you're just around that family, if you're just around Jocelyn Alo, like, that's an incredible asset for any softball player, especially one that's going to come all the way from Hawaii to play at Oklahoma, right? Because, you know, even Jossie, as great of a player as she was, and she's one of the greatest collegiate softball players of all time, like, it's well documented some of the hardships that she went through early in her career at Oklahoma. And she overcame those, and she ended up being, in my opinion, the greatest hitter the sport has ever seen. But it's fantastic for Ori to leave home, leave Hawaii, come to the States, come all the way to Norman, Oklahoma, and she's going to have that asset and someone that's close by like Jocelyn. If she goes through some trials and tribulations, and she will, just like every college athlete. So I like that. I like the fact that she's a power hitter, can hit the ball a ton. I like the fact that, you know, she's got Jocelyn Alo probably by her side and helping guide her throughout her college career, as well as Patty Gasso and JT Gasso as well. But this is a hitter that a lot of people wanted. Oklahoma State offered, Texas offered, and you got to beat out your two biggest softball rivals for Ori Malo, which feels pretty good, right? So I think it's a heck of a get. Top 40 player again, and there's just a lot of similarities there in the stance and in the approach and the swing to Joshy. You can't have enough power hitters in the lineup. And this program over the course of the past, how far you want to go back? You want to go back a decade? You want to go back 10 years? Like, who's been more consistent? Who's had more power hitters and power numbers than Oklahoma? You'd be hard-pressed to find a program that's been better power-wise than OU has. And clearly, that it helps out quite a bit when you have the two past home run queens in Lauren Chamberlain and Jocelyn Alo, but you've had so many other power hitters throughout the program as well. Tiari Jennings hit a ton of home runs. Kaylee Clifton was a great power hitter. I mean, I could clearly go on and on. Kinsey Hansen and go on and on and on with this, but to add another legitimate power hitter to the 2026 class is a really good get from the same island as Jocelyn Alo. So was Jossie and the family involved in the recruitment? I can't say that. I don't know for sure. But what I do know, or do at least have a pretty good idea of, is this. Look, Jocelyn Alo is one of the most impactful athletes to come out of Hawaii in a very, very long time. Of course, we're all very familiar with Dylan Gabriel, and he's done some really cool stuff with his local or his high school back there in Hawaii as well. So I'm sure Dylan Gabriel's a big name, and so there's some other big names as well. But in terms of softball, I mean, there's not a name that's comparable in Hawaii to Jocelyn Alo. So when you see the kids that are coming up through now, the 25 kids, the 26 kids, 27 kids, and for the next several years, there's a pretty good chance that if they're a really good softball player, their favorite player, the player that they grew up admiring, is probably going to be Jocelyn Alo. What does that mean, essentially? Well, there's some good softball players that come out of Hawaii. And again, OU has a legit Hawaii connection or pipeline right now, it feels like. So OU's going to have a fantastic opportunity at any of the legit or best players that come out of Hawaii because of what Jocelyn Alo did at Oklahoma. Everyone wants to know her. Everyone wants to talk to her. Everyone wants to know what her collegiate experience is like. And it doesn't guarantee that OU is going to get the number one player in that state for the next 10 years or so. But Jocelyn Alo can tell them, each of those players firsthand, if Oklahoma wants them, hey, here's what I experienced with Patty Gasso. Hey, here's what I experienced with JT Gasso. Here's what I experienced leaving home and going to Oklahoma. Oklahoma as a school, the fans, the environment, all that around, she's still very much kind of around the team and around the program. We see her in OKC every year. So I think that that's an incredible asset as more and more great players come out of Hawaii. Is if Patty goes out there and offers a really good player from the island, you're going to have a really good chance because the most notable softball player and one of the more notable athletes to come out of Hawaii in a while is Jocelyn Alo, and she was a star at the University of Oklahoma. So I like this from every single angle. Third player this month for OU in the 2026 class, Malaya Maham-Finch, Peyton Westra, and now Ori Malo. So that's three really good gets. It's just cool. It's cool the connections that we've been talking about with players in this 2026 class. Not so much Peyton Westra, but Malaya Maham-Finch, her aunt is Jenny Finch, in case you didn't know that already. And then, of course, we're talking about the connection with Jocelyn Alo. And it is cool how much of a rock star that Jossie is in Hawaii. Not just Hawaii, but I think all over the country in the softball world, and certainly in Oklahoma as well. But it's still cool that how big of a name that she is and will continue to be moving forward. And look, it's no different than any other sport. You look at college football, if you have one of the stars in the NFL, you send players to the league and they make a lot of money. That's going to help you in recruiting. Same thing with college basketball. Same thing for college softball. OU's had more household names than anyone in the sport for a long time now. And when you have those household names that are out front and center, that ultimately only helps OU in recruiting. And I'm sure Jocelyn Alo doing what she did at OU helped their chances when they're recruiting against Oklahoma State, they're recruiting against Texas and some others to get a player like Ori Malo, the 5'4" power hitter. Number 40 overall player, like I said, via Softball America. How many more recruits is Patty going to get in this class? Jason, it's interesting you say that because I don't there's no real way of telling because you don't know if your numbers are going to look the exact same after this year and then after the next year, right? Players are processed. Players are told that, hey, if you want to get some serious playing time, your opportunities are probably elsewhere. So right now, if you were to just judge it based on the numbers they have, I think they're like 1 over maybe. But you got to factor in that kids and players are going to transfer away, some that maybe you expect, some that you don't expect, right? Of course, Avery Hodge was one last year that maybe a lot of people didn't expect after the run that she had in Oklahoma City. So we'll see. We'll see how many they get. That may be very dependent on kind of what happens with the roster and what they think the turnover is even going to be like after this year. Vote for Pedro, says Brian. All your dreams will come true. A great Napoleon Dynamite reference there. Brian says strong-looking athlete like Jossie. Yeah, and I want to, clearly I made some comparisons here. You don't want to go too far with that, right? And I agree with you, Brian. Like, I essentially said the same thing. It's just, that's like the highest bar right there to even start with it. But like, yeah, again, at the plate, that's what she looks like. My expectations will not be for her to be the next Jocelyn Alo. It would be amazing if she was, but who can live up to that if your expectations or comparison is that to the greatest hitter that softball has ever seen? 25 full scholarships for softball next year, says William. She'll probably grow another couple of inches in the next 2 years. Patty, the consummate chef, is always cooking. She is. There ain't no doubt about it. And here's the thing with OU softball recruiting. It's not college softball recruiting is not an exact science. College softball America, like everyone else, is doing the best that they can to evaluate the players accordingly. But do I trust Patty and this staff's opinion of players more than I trust a recruiting service? Yeah. And maybe with recruiting how it's gone now for the past several years, if it's not a number 1 player in the country, if it's not a top 5 or a top 10 player, you say, oh, okay. Patty Gasso and her staff clearly know what they're doing. They can see upside. They can see potential. They see things maybe that a lot of other people don't see. They see attitude. Like we talked about this, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago? Like this program, you always have players within the program that are so easy to root for. Like they don't cause problems off the field. They do things the right way. That's a part of the recruiting process as well. They don't bring in bad kids, you know? They're not going to bring in kids that are problems or all about me or all about NIL or all about this, all about that. Like that's not something that you can rate with the recruiting service. And I'm not sitting here trying to knock the recruiting services whatsoever. I know that they do the best job that they can. All I'm saying is I will always trust Patty Gasso's opinion of a prospect over anyone else because, I mean, it's pretty clear. Look at the amount of players both in the circle and at the plate that she's developed. And a recruiting service can't rate attitude. It can't rate how hard they work or all these other intangibles. But Patty Gasso knows, and she knows all of those things before she even offers a kid and accepts that commitment. So if she felt it necessary to go offer what is rated as the number 1 player in Hawaii, I'm in full belief that Ori Malo is going to show up, and she's probably going to have an amazing career with a lot of home runs. She has some Samoan DNA, good enough for me. Jay says Boomer damn Sooner, for sure. Brian says, wasn't comparing her game, just body type, strong lower body, which gives... Yeah, no. Yeah, I didn't mean to... Because I said, like I said, Brian, I said the same thing, and I thought the same thing. Like when this Go Boomer tweet dropped today, and then, we find out who it is. Okay, well, let's look and see on YouTube kind of what her game looks like. And that's immediately what I thought. Like, I totally agree with you. I just don't want people saying, hey, compared her to Jocelyn Alo. Clearly, that's not what you and I are doing, Brian. But we see similarities in the game. And, you know, when they're taking cage sessions and doing all of that, it would make sense that Ori would try to emulate a player that she grew up admiring, right? Like, it would make sense that maybe their batting stance is similar. It would make sense that maybe they kind of look a little bit similar. I mean, she's a power hitter from Hawaii. Jossie is a power hitter from Hawaii. So there's obviously some similarities there, and I would imagine she's trying to emulate Jocelyn Alo's game as much as possible. But these photos, as always, are awesome, aren't they? Can't get enough of them. I love that right there, the up-and-coming. If Jossie says it, it is true. If Jossie says it, it's probably going to happen, the up-and-coming. And then those ones never get old, right? Sitting there on the couch with this lit-up scoreboard in the background, all the national championship trophies. OU loves Hawaiian sluggers, ain't no doubt about it. There's her and the fam right there. But, again, 4-star rated according to On3, number 40 or top 40 player nationally out of Hawaii. Infielder. And this 2026 class is really starting to come together. Okay, I also want to talk Battle Series, right? I mean, come on. It's starting on Wednesday. We've got the Battle Series quickly approaching. Cannot wait to see it. And I have a list here. I want you guys to interact as well. Who are the, you can list 1, you can list 2, list 3, whatever. But when you think of Wednesday in the Battle Series and what's going to happen this fall, like who are you most looking forward to seeing? I've got my list right here. Here are the 3 players, and I want to see the whole team, right? I mean, come on. I want to see just this program play softball. But here are the 3 players that I'm probably most excited to see in the fall. And as you can see, 2 of these are newcomers. 2 are going to be true freshmen. And then there's Nelly McEnroe-Moranis, who's not a newcomer, but we didn't get to see a whole lot last year. Audrey Lowry is there at the top. And I think a lot of that is self-explanatory, right? Like, you're going to need an ace in the circle. Who's that ace going to be? Well, maybe it could be Audrey Lowry as a true freshman. I think probably Kirsten Deal right now is the favorite. But I want to see what you got in one of the best pitchers that coming out of high school this year. Like, what do you got? And if she performs great, if she performs bad, that's not going to necessarily be an indictment of what her upcoming season looks like in 2025. But I want to see the pitcher that everyone's excited about. I want to see Audrey Lowry in the circle against a lot of really good hitters and see how she's going to fare. Yes, I want to see Audrey Lowry, and I hope I get to see Audrey Lowry on Wednesday nights. Nelly McEnroe-Moranis, speaking of that Hawaiian connection, right? If you've watched this channel at all throughout the offseason, you guys know how high I am on Nelly. Nelly is my pick to click this season. I think that she's going to be your starting third baseman. I think that she's going to give you some real power numbers. I think that she's going to emerge as one of the better hitters in your order. Like, I am all in. I've bought all the stock on Nelly. I have. I am a real believer in her game, in her power, in her arm, and what she can give you at third base, a corner infield spot. I'm all in. So I want to get a good look on Wednesday night and throughout the rest of the fall, just kind of what she looks like at the plate. That power that I think that she's going to have, does that translate in the Battle Series? Because we can see power immediately. Hey, there's a lot of players in this lineup that'll be able to hit home runs, but there are some players where their home runs look and sound a little bit different than everyone else's home runs. And I'm hoping that Nelly looks like one of those players throughout the fall, right? Where she gets a hold of one, it's like, geez, that is a no-doubter. That's legitimate power. I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about her. She's coming off the injury, so we'll see how she handles that. But I'm really excited about Nelly. She's on my list. And then Katie McKay. And I was Audrey Lowry and Nelly were 2 pretty easy picks for me. I really had to think about the third one. But I'm going with Katie McKay. And why am I going with Katie McKay, the true freshman out of the state of Oklahoma? Am I born and raised in the state of Oklahoma? Yes. Is this Oklahoma bias? It is not Oklahoma bias. I put Katie McKay there because Patty Gasso said on signing day last year, I think she's going to be a future All-American. You guys know Patty Gasso. You've heard Patty Gasso just like I have. She does not make proclamations like that about players. It does not happen. I really don't see it that much. I can't remember another time that she said something like that for a true freshman. So if Patty Gasso thinks that Katie McKay is going to be a future All-American, then I'm excited to see what the true freshman can give you right away. So those are 3 players I want to see. What are you guys going with? Ray is saying Malloy, Barker, and Hannah Core. So you got true freshmen in there, two true freshmen in there. Tia Malloy, Sydney Barker, Hannah Core. Yeah, I hope Hannah Core is back and able to play. Obviously, she had the surgery in the offseason, which she talked about. We'll see what her availability is. Brian, I agree with you there. Same wavelength, under the radar player, Nelly. Let's see. Lowry, Malloy, and Garcia. Teresa is going with 3 true freshmen. And so I think that we're kind of all on the same page, right? Like, we all want to see this exciting freshman class that we've been hearing about for so long. That's as heralded of a freshman class as we've seen around here in a long time. And we've seen some great recruiting classes. We've seen some great players here. But this is our opportunity to see this true freshman class. So I think you guys are kind of with me a little bit. Like, well, let's see it. Let's see how they stack up against a really good portal class and some really good players returning. So, yeah, am I excited to see Kirsten Deal back in the circle? Of course. Do I want to see Ella Parker hit? I always want to see Ella Parker play softball. Same thing for Cassidy Pickering, and I want to see Sid Sanders out there. I want to see everybody with this team. But this is our opportunity to see this freshman class that we're all so excited about. So give me all of that. Like, I want to see that for the first time up close and personal, for sure. Ray says Malloy, correction. There's Malloy. Tia Malloy says Teresa. You guys like you some Tia Malloy. I don't fault you there. I have projected her pre-fall as the starting second baseman. We'll see if I change that after the battle series is over. Lowry Garcia and Sid Barker. Yeah, we want to see some freshmen out there. I want to see the portal players as well. I think Abby Dayton is. I think everyone believes that she's going to be good. I think she's your starting center fielder. I think she's going to be real good this year. Might she be the best center fielder in the SEC? Like, I think those are the types of conversations we could be having about Abby Dayton before the end of the year. Want to see Agbayan? I mean, you want to see everything. It's like a football spring game. Like, you've heard all the hype and all the expectations and everything. You just want to see it in person. So Wednesday night is going to draw a large crowd, I'm sure, and a lot of people will be streaming it as well. A lot of people will be streaming it. This guy sucks says streaming equals ESPN Plus. So cool how they stream it, and you know it's going to be probably close to a packed house. I think we're supposed to have pretty nice weather on a Wednesday night, so that should bring out a pretty good crowd. But yeah, I individually, those are the players I want to see. But just in terms of what I want to see as a team, like what do I want this team to accomplish throughout the next month or so as they're playing the battle series, and they're playing other teams? Well, if they're hitting the ball like crazy, it's, our pitching isn't going to be any good. If there's strikeouts left and right, it's, what's up with our offense? Are we going to be able to hit this year? Are we able to produce runs? So even with exciting things that happen in the battle series when it's essentially an intra-squad, there's always a positive there, but there always has to be the negative that comes with it, right? Yeah, I mean, that was a big-time home run, but that was a terrible pitch. That pitch could have been a lot better, right? So that's why I say, and this has been the catalyst of the program now throughout the four-peat, I want to see great defense. More than anything throughout the fall, give me great defense. Give me high-level defensive plays. Give me routine plays that this team makes with ease. Give me defense. Because we've talked about it all off season. Patty Gasso's mentioned it time after time after time. Yes, they've been elite offensively. Yes, they've been great in the circle. But man, they've been the best defensive team in college softball for a long time now. And that's a huge reason, maybe the biggest reason of all, why they've been able to stack national championships. Is the defense this year going to be as good as it was last year or how it's been? That's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to find a better defensive option behind the plate than Kinsey Hansen. It's going to be impossible to find a better defensive option in center field than the greatest to ever do it, right? In Jada Coleman. It's going to be hard to find your Riley Boone. It's going to be hard to find your Tiari Jennings. It's going to be hard to replace Alyssa Brito's glove at third base. It's going to be hard to do those things. But here's the thing. You don't have to replace every one of those players and be better defensively to be an elite defense this year. I think Abby Dayton has already shown to be elite in the outfield. I think Ilana Agbayani is going to be a fantastic defender at shortstop. I don't expect this team to be greater or better than what they were defensively last year, but you don't necessarily have to be that to be one of, if not the best defenses in all of college softball. But I want to see it. I want to see it continuously because here's the thing. Like, there are a lot of teams in college softball where they've got some great individual players defensively, but there's also some holes. Like maybe they got a hole at second base. Maybe they got a hole in left field. Oh, you hadn't had a hole defensively. Everyone out there can defend and can defend at a high level. Is that the case once again this year with so many new starters? I hope so, because you can't really paint anything negative out of this team being consistently really good throughout the fall on defense. You can't look at it from the other side, glass half empty, negative, like, well, yeah, that's great, but why isn't this better? You can't do that with defense during the fall. Good defense is just good defense. Heck, last year, they had a Sports Center top 10 play in the fall. And that player is no longer affiliated with the program. And I don't even necessarily need to see that. I just want to see game in and game out, battle series game in, opponent out, consistent defense. Consistent defense. They're making the routine plays. They're making the tough plays, the spectacular plays as well. That's been the catalyst of this program for a long time. And if this team, because I think they're going to hit. I think they're going to be able to run bases. I think there's a lot of speed coming back. My overall question right now, can they find the ace in the circle? How legit are they at pitcher? But if that defense is really good, if it's elite again, this team can accomplish anything it wants to accomplish this year. Anything that it wants to accomplish. Brian, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that, seriously. Okay, let's get to some other comments here. Don't forget about Maya Bland. I'll never forget about Maya Bland. I love me some Maya Bland. She's fast. I've said it. You guys have heard me say it. I hope she's the next Riley Boone. Who wouldn't take another Riley Boone for the next few years? Everyone would take. Everyone in softball would take the next Riley Boone. Has there been a better 9-hole hitter in the sports history than her? And taking pride in that, the way that she's done that. I mean, she's freaking awesome. Like, Maya Bland's going to have to do a lot of special things to be like Riley Boone, but someone in the outfield that can bring the energy with a lot of speed. And I don't know, maybe Maya hits at the top of the order this year. I'm not going to rule that out. But I love the idea of having a 9-hole hitter that is fantastic at getting on base, at tear onto the base paths, and can flip the lineup over and get to the top of the order. Like, I love that idea. I love that idea. So if that's Maya Bland, like, let's go. And I hope whoever that player is takes as much pride as Riley Boone did in the role that she served. She's great. Women's College World Series all-tournament team, 2 years ago, right? One of your favorite players from last year. I'd like to see all of them. Cannot wait till the season starts. I know, Teresa. We're so far away. But this is like just a small little appetizer. I love it when we get to see so many games. Let's overreact. This will play out. Trust. Yeah. Oh, let's not overreact, I mean. Hey, Brian, it's hard for me not to overreact. I've been going without softball for so long. I'm just ready to get this thing started. I'm just ready to get this thing underway. And I'm going to try not to overreact to each Battle Series game. You'll take the information how it comes, but just to be able to evaluate a game is going to be fun. But I do want to see some really good defense is what I want to see. High-level play on both sides. I'm not going to watch a team that hits some home runs and say, oh my gosh, the pitcher's already good. That's what Brian's. I mean, don't overreact to that. I mean, there's going to be, the pitchers are going to have their moments. The hitters are going to have their moments. There's just too much overall talent in everything with this team. Like, everyone's going to have their moment. And I'm excited to see who really rises to the occasion. Because last year, Hannah Core was awesome. And I mean awesome during the Battle Series. And we'll see who those stars are coming up here pretty soon. Girls know you can't relax at Oklahoma. Keeps bringing in competition. Robert, that's a fantastic point. And that's why OU gets so much out of the Battle Series and out of these games. Like, they're not going through the motions throughout the fall. You can. I mean, you can go through the motions as a player, I guess, but guess what? You ain't going to play once the season starts, and you might have to go play somewhere else at the end of the year. Like, so there's pressure with that. And with pressure, like, that makes you better. Because at virtually every single position this year, there's going to be someone fighting for that same spot. Kirsten Deal comes back. She's got the most OU experience. Her spot is not guaranteed. It's not. There's pressure with that to be the ace. There's expectations for that to be the ace. That is only going to make you better. Like, you got some players coming back that aren't necessarily guaranteed a spot. They're going to have to fight for it. So they know that. You can't relax. You can't relax Wednesday night during the Battle Series. It's your opportunity to show Patty and the staff that you belong in the order. Like, you're one of the best 9 that they have, and you deserve to play on an everyday basis. So, yeah, this isn't about relaxing. This is about using this as an opportunity to go earn a spot. We just talked about Maya Bland. I bet Maya Bland is looking at this as, hey, I was mostly used as a pinch runner last year, but here is my chance to show the fans, to show the coaching staff, to show everyone that when the lights are on and we're playing an actual game and we're making a lineup and everything, that I'm the total package as a player. And I'm not limiting that to just Maya Bland. There's a lot of players that are using this opportunity as a big stage. And I love that because that makes them better. That makes the players around them better. It is a highly competitive atmosphere. Highly competitive atmosphere. And you don't just see players go through the motions. You see players get a whole lot better throughout the fall because there is that crazy competition. And here's the thing. The competition doesn't end just because fall ball is over. There's competition in the weight room. There's competition to get in extra reps before fall ball even starts, after fall ball is over, before the season, and then during the season. Yeah, you may be in the opening day lineup. Doesn't guarantee you'll be a starter 3 weeks from now. It's just healthy. Like, there's pressure with it. There's expectations. We know and we have seen the crazy expectations that this program has. But at the same time, I do think that there's a healthy level to that all these players, I think, like we talk all the time in collegiate athletics about ceiling, this player's ceiling of what they can be, ceiling. I just feel like OU softball, there are more players that reach the ultimate ceiling because of that healthy competition that's there and that competition that's there on an everyday basis, because you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice if you want to be a great player. You've got to show up every day. You've got to bring your best, and ultimately that's going to make you the best player possible. This team will be really good. Will take a while to come together. Just too many that graduated. And that's kind of my expectation, Brian. And what I've said routinely this offseason is, do I think this team can win a national championship this year? I do. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think the University of Oklahoma, yes, can win a national championship. But is this team going to have to mesh and gel and figure some things out? Are we going to see different lineups as the season goes on early in the season? I think so. So I don't expect this team to come just roaring out of the gate and, wow, they look like the best softball team. That may not be the case. And guess what? That's okay. That's okay if this team doesn't come crazy out of the gate and they don't look like the best team. They're not run-ruling everyone. Like, maybe it's okay to sort through some lineups early on in the season. Maybe it's okay to have to play 7 innings. Maybe it's okay for this year's team to be in a lot of close games early on and grow from that. Because ultimately, what's going to matter? It's going to matter, are you playing your best softball at the end of the year when it matters? Are you peaking at the right time? Hey, last year's team, who had played a ton of softball together, who had gelled years before that, they had issues in the regular season. I remember the panic and the freak out after the BYU game. Patty Gasso, I remember saying, this team right now isn't good enough to win a national championship. That was last year's team with a team full of legends. They had their hiccups during the regular season, and this team may have them too. It's all about, can they figure it out towards the end of the year and find a way to play their best softball? Because that's what last year's team did, and the team before it, and the team before it, and the team before that. Oklahoma has done a fantastic job of always finding a way to play their best ball at the end of the year. And that's going to be the challenge for this year's team. Grow as the season goes on, get a lot better, gel, mesh, and then hit their stride when it matters most. Who do you see being the voice of the team player-wise? You know, that's a good question, Drew. I think that's I think Ella Parker, I think that she's already proven enough. Because I think the voice of the team, it doesn't have to be your best player necessarily. But I think it helps when it's a player that, you know, has done some things that everyone really respects. There's not a whole lot of players within this program that have been here more than 1 year. So your options are kind of a little bit limited in terms of 3 and 4 year players. I will say this, I'm seeing a lot of Hannah Core, I feel like. Like, wasn't she on game day, I think, up there with Ella Parker? I want to say that's right. Hannah Core's been with the program a bit, so maybe she's a player like that. But, Drew, I'm just going to, I'll say it like this. I want it to be Ella Parker. I think that she is the best player that you have. That's what I think. I think that she's going to put up some crazy numbers. I think that her statistics at the end of her career are going to be awesome. Like, I think she's going to be an All-American. I think she's going to be All-SEC this year. I think she's the best player that you have. Now, the good thing about this is I could be wrong, because Cassidy Pickering could be that player, Agbayani could be that player, Abby Dayton could be that player. You have a lot of option here as to who could be your best player. But who do I think it's going to be this year? I think it's going to be Ella Parker. So I want a player like that to be the vocal leader of this team. I don't know if she has the personality of Kinsey Hansen. Very few have the personality of Kinsey Hansen and the immediate respect that she garners, right? But I want to see her be like that. She's going to be the cornerstone, one of the big cornerstone players of this program for the next 3 years. So I think that this may be a team that has several voices. I think last year's team, it wasn't just Kinsey, it was Jada, and I think for the most part, that team really policed itself, but Ella Parker, man. Ella Parker. Brian says this is what lives for, real coaching. I think this is what you're talking about, Patty. That's what Patty lives for, real coaching of really new and young players. It's how she started 30 years ago, will be invigorated. Yeah, and most coaches, not most coaches, some coaches are like mentally drained after a long season, even if it ends in a national championship. Like, oh my gosh, long season. We've seen Patty be very, very emotional after previous national championships, but I mean, you guys remember, like Brian clearly remembers, she was ready to roll up the sleeves and get to work. Like, let's go. I'm ready. Like, this team, for the most part, has been coaching itself. This team, I got to roll up my sleeves and go to work. JT's got to roll up his sleeves and get to work. Jen Rocha's got to roll up her sleeves and get to work a little bit. So you're right about that. Patty is a softball coach. I mean, you know, like, I know now that she has to deal with NIL and she's got to deal with transfer portal. And she probably has to deal with more non-softball things than at any point in her career. So when she gets the opportunity to just coach, to just develop, like that's what she digs. That's what she loves, right? That's why she's doing this. So to get that opportunity, I think really excites her, and that really excites me, and that should excite everyone else, because that's probably the mentality that her as a head coach is going into it with the fall, right? Like, let's see what we got. Let's roll it out there, see what we got, and let's coach, man. Let's coach. Let's fix some things. Like, that's I just based on her comments, I think that she's really excited about that. And you're right, pressure is off to some degree, for sure. Catchers. I think Ronnie there is saying that in terms of being the voice of the team, catchers. Yeah, I feel like that is the case a lot of the times. It's almost like you kind of would like your linebacker of a football team to be your team leader, voice of the team. That's what OU has right now with Danny Stutzman. So catchers are normally like they command everything, right? So if your catcher is your leader, that's never a bad thing. I don't know if Isabella Emmerling is like what kind of personality she has. I don't think that we know that yet, and I think that she's going to be your starting catcher this year. But is she that type of personality to say, hey, I know I'm a newcomer, I know I'm a transfer portal player, but look what I just did recently in the ACC. This is my infield. This is my team. I'm going to be the loud team leader. Maybe. Brett says, who's going to be the ace of this year's squad? Brett, that's a great question. It's the $1 million question. Today, I will say that it's Kirsten Deal. I'm hopeful that it's Kirsten Deal. Now, I think Audrey Lowry could be that as a true freshman. I don't think it's easy to be that type of player as a true freshman, but I think that she's got enough ceiling. Remember that word that we were just using? I think that she's got enough ceiling to be that type of player. But I would guess it's KD right now. And look, KD did some really fantastic things last year. Like, there were points last season where she was as good of a number two as you were going to find in the sport last year. She's got to be consistent. We've talked about that. But I would say that it's Kirsten Deal right now. If it's not Kirsten Deal and if it's not Audrey Lowry, I think it'll be one of your two transfer portal players. I would probably favor Isabella Smith over Bella Landry right now. That's just kind of more of a feel thing. But I would rank, in terms of most likely, Kirsten Deal, Audrey Lowry, and Bella Smith would probably be my three most likely to be the ace this year. Maybe Peyton Monticelli really surprises me. Maybe Sam Landry really surprises me this year. Excited to see. Teresa, agree with you, Brian. Patty will be loving it. Agree. Brett says, is Malloy going to start day one? I had her as the starting opening day starting second baseman. I think that is far from a guarantee. That is far from a guarantee. Because there could be a situation where I think Agbayani is going to start. So you may have her at short, but then you may have Nelly at third. Well, we really like Gabby Garcia, or we really like Sid Barker, and we're not going to start her at shortstop, but we might put her at second base instead. You know what I mean? Like, I projected Tia as the opening day second baseman. That is far from a guarantee because I think there's going to be so much competition. Like, I think a freshman absolutely has a chance to start at second base, but might it be a player that's a future shortstop? I guess we'll see. Brett, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Seriously, all the super chats that you guys have, I mean, that's nice. It's really, really appreciated. Thank you. Brian says Patty would not have signed Emmerling if she didn't think she could take command of the entire pitching staff. Yeah, fair point. Because Patty recruits great players and gets great play. I mean, but again, you got to be a certain level of teammate. You got to be a certain level of player. You got to be a certain you got to be a certain level of softball player to get an invite to play with the softball program. So for sure, I also don't think Emmerling leaves North Carolina if she doesn't think that she's going to start. So I think Isabella Emmerling is your starting catcher this year. Drew says, who's going to be our speedsters with losses of Boone and Hodges? I think that Maya Bland is a speedster. And here's a funny thing. You say loss of speedsters with Boone and Hodges. And yes, they're clearly fast. But Ella Parker led the team in stolen bases last year. And she's back. She led the team in stolen bases by a wide margin. So would you categorize her as a speedster? I mean, no, maybe not, but the numbers are what the numbers are. But Maya Bland would be kind of the first person that would come to mind to me. Tia will start as a reserve outfielder, maybe. Maybe she's such a good bat, and I think she's really athletic as well. I mean, clearly, look at her family, how athletic she is, for sure. But I'm excited about Wednesday. I know everyone in here is as well. Appreciate you as always. Going to try to do like maybe a quick video to have you on Thursday morning after just like a 9-10 minute video of a quick wrap up, and then maybe Thursday night we'll do another live show and look at game 1 of the battle series. I think if Ella can hit lefties better, she's going to have 25 plus home runs. She's just freaking incredible. She's so good. Oh, she's so good. The power numbers, the numbers from last year were just insane. But hey, I love everyone that's always in here for the live chats. It's always fun. Cheney Helton, track star. Yeah, there's another one, Ray, true freshman. Could be one of those players as well. I didn't put Cheney in my starting lineup, but could she be one of those pinch runners that you get in, she causes havocs on the base paths? Yes. There's just so many X factors with this program. I've talked about the defense, but you can bring someone off the bench that's a great pinch hitter. You can bring someone off the bench that can really run bases. It feels like everything is done at a high level. Everything is done at an elite level, which is really cool. All right, I got to get out of here. I'll talk to you later this week. Softball is here this week. The University of Oklahoma is going to play softball this week. And no, it's not an actual game, but who freaking cares? They're going to suit up and they're going to play. It's awesome. To those of you that are going to be out at Love's Field, enjoy it. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. Talk to you soon. Appreciate you as always.